Okay, we are now on page 27, and we are talking today about rates, which you might think, haven't we already been talking about rates? And no, we've been talking about ratios. Rates are different. So I promise we will go into that. So we had intro to ratios a couple days ago. Now we have intro to rates. First, let's remind ourselves on this page, this is mostly going to be vocabulary on this page, so don't be afraid to use up a good chunk of this for this vocabulary table that we're going to make. Okay, so first word, we might actually end up color coding this. What is a ratio? Remember, a ratio is a comparison of two quantities. If we have also talked about equivalent ratios, which are ratios that have the same relationship between quantities. So if we think back to our red marbles, blue marbles, 1 to 2 is the same, is equivalent to 3 to 6, 4 to 8, 5 to 10. They have the same relationship to each other. We're just using different numbers. That's a ratio, an equivalent ratio. So now let's talk today about a rate, which is very similar to a ratio, but it has an important difference. So a rate is a comparison of two quantities with different units. What are units again? They're the way we measure. So miles per hour, dollars per pound, feet per inch, not feet per inch, snowfall, inches per hour. If we talk about baseball, like strikes per game, so we're comparing things that are different. They have different units. So let's put a couple of examples in there right away. So miles is one unit and hour is another unit. Miles per hour is a rate. If we have dollars per pound, dollars is one unit, pounds is another. So then we also end up having equivalent rates, which are very, if you know what the word equivalent means, you're way ahead of me. Equivalent rates are rates that they're different rates, but they have the same relationship to each other. So going 30 miles in 1 hour is the same as going 60 miles in 2 hours. The rate is equivalent to each other. It might be easier just to write an example. It would also mean maybe write one of your own. How many miles in how many hours? I'm going to say it would mean 300 miles in 10 hours. You can write a different amount if you want. Okay, the rate is staying the same. The rate of miles per hour is staying the same. So those are equivalent rates. And we're coming in for a landing here. our last kind of big term, and this is a new one. I know, so much new stuff. I'm just expanding your brain. You can thank me later. Is a unit rate. So we remember that a rate is something that has two different units. That word unit is important, right? So units were like miles an hour, dollars and pound. In a unit rate, we make one of the units 1. So like 30 miles in 1 hour, that is a unit rate because it tells us how much happens in one of the units. This is one where I feel another example. So 30 miles in 1 hour is a unit rate, or $15 for 1 pound is a unit rate because we're doing one of the units. 60 miles in 2 hours is not a unit rate. Neither one of those numbers are 1. 300 miles in 10 hours is not a unit rate because neither one of those numbers are 1. So the only sort of magic secret to a unit rate is that it's something to one of something else. So it's like this many whatevers to one of whatever the other thing is. So that So really quickly, let's write a couple examples of unit rates. What did I just say? I said 30 miles to 1 hour. We already have that one. Maybe I'll just draw an arrow to that one. It gets a special star. If I have, what did I say? $15 per pound. If it's per pound, that means 1 pound. If I have 30 seconds per round of a game. So for 1 round of the game, per is a good indicator that it's probably a unit rate. 3 mice to 1 slice of cheese. I don't know. Anything where it's to 1 is a unit rate. And remember that what makes it a rate is that we have different units. We're not counting all the same thing. Okay. There is, we'll call this one rate vocabulary. Whoops, I forgot to label it. And we'll do more on the other side in a minute. Hey, there we go.